Welcome back, and today we're going to be having a look at our second session for our note lengths. So, last time we looked at crotchets, minims, dotted minims, and semibreves. 1, 2, 3, and 4 beat notes. This time we're going to be changing it up a little bit, looking at some more complicated values. Let's start off with this. So, looks very similar to our crotchet, except it's got a little dash down the side. Sometimes you might see it with a little curved line like that. But either way, that is called a quaver, and that is a half beat note. So a half beat or a quaver, similar to the crisps. So, you might be wondering to yourself, how do you play a half beat? Well, it's always better to think of these things in comparison with our one beat note. Okay? So if we have our one beat note, let's add some quavers to that. They're going to be twice as fast. So your quavers, you can fit 2 in the space of a single crotchet. If we looked at them side by side, just like this. So on the top we've got our crotchets, and down here we have our quavers. So we have 3 crotchets and 6 quavers, because you can fit 6 quavers in 3 crotchets because they're all worth half a beat. So that would sound like this. So I'm playing the right hand on the top line and the left hand on the bottom line. One more time. If you were to slow it down, it would be something like this. Because remember, beat lengths aren't a fixed value in and of themselves. What I mean by that is one beat isn't worth 1 second of holding it down. That can change a little bit, but that's why it's helpful to think of everything in regards to one crotchet beat. Well, one more time. There's your quavers, there's your crotchets. And when you have 2 quavers side by side, they could be paired in groups of 2, like this, or sometimes they might be in groups of 4. Okay? So quavers can either appear, these half beats can appear like this if they're by themselves, or if they're together, they're connected by that little line. So imagine that line instead is just connecting to another note there. Okay, there is your quavers. Now, let's have a look at something similar, but even quicker. This time, we have a semi-quaver. So it looks very similar to this previous note, this quaver, except instead of 1 dash, it's got 2 dashes. And they're going to be worth a quarter beat. So they're quarter beats and they're called semi-quavers. And let's again think about this in terms of crotchets, or our one beat notes. So there is your one beat note. And in that value, we can fit in 4 semi-quavers. And when you've got 4 semi-quavers together, it's just like with quavers, you connect them all together like this. Okay? So they're all worth a quarter beat. And 4 quarters makes 1 whole. So in the space of this one crotchet, you can get 4 semi-quavers. I will give you an example. So my right hand is going to do the crotchets, my left hand is going to do the semi-quavers. Okay? So much quicker than our quavers. Or we could think about it in this way. So when you see these, you can expect the piece to go quite quickly. It's not always the case, but most of the time, if you see a semiquaver, you're going to be playing it fairly quickly. Okay, so there's our quavers and our semiquavers. Here's a little exercise for getting used to our new note values. So just as a reminder, our quaver, our half beat, and our semiquaver, our quarter beat. Down here, we have a 3/4 time signature. This top number tells us that there's going to be 3 beats in each bar. What I would like you to try and do is to fill in each of these 3 bars using either quavers or semiquavers, making sure that the complete value adds up to 3 in each box. Okay? I'll give you an example. In this first bar, we might have 2 quavers, so half equals 1, 4 semiquavers, it's going to get very small, and then, I'm going to have to move this bar along a bit, 2 more quavers. So that adds up to 1, that adds up to 1, because each was worth a quarter beat, and that adds up to 1, and that makes 3. So that is a perfectly acceptable bar. One other rule, you can't just use quavers or semiquavers in each bar, you need to use a combination of the 2. So try filling out the rest of the bars like so. You might be able to get some really interesting combinations. For example, you could start with a quaver and then do 2 semiquavers, which would add up to 1. Alternatively, if you want it to be really complicated, you could start with a semiquaver, then a quaver, and end with a semiquaver. It's entirely up to you, as long as each bar adds up to 3. Okay? I hope that was useful, and I'll see you next time in part 3 of our note learning. Take care.